Okay, first up at number 20, we have Starwing. Blast through space in this classic shooter where you can expect intense aerial dogfights and epic battles. Now, this is Starwing and not Star Fox, because you might be wondering what the hell, what's going on with that name change. But this was apparently due to a German company called Starvox at the time. Now, if you're looking at these graphics now and you're thinking, wow, this doesn't look that good, back in the day, this was incredible for us. And it wasn't just a gimmick. The whole story, the way you control the ship, the other characters, and the music all tied together really well to make a fantastic experience. And it had multiple paths for difficulty, which was great because that means it had a lot of replayability, which actually, if I hold my hand up, I've got to say, I never beat this game. I always got to the last boss, and I was never able to beat it. And because I didn't own it, I had to give it back to a friend. That's just the way games worked back then for me. I'm gonna have to beat that game at some point in this day and age. You can hold me to that. At number 19, we have Super Metroid, where you uncover secrets in an epic intergalactic adventure. Now, this was very moody and very atmospheric. And I'd never played any of the original games, the one on the NES and the sequel on the Game Boy. Never played them, so this was my first introduction to the Metroid series, and I've become a fan of this genre ever since. I thought this game was absolutely incredible. It was just insane the amount of scope this game had, the kind of open world nature. You could go anywhere and unlock places when you got power-ups. I'd never played a game like that before, and it blew my mind. And similar to Starwing, I never actually beat it again because I didn't own this game, I only borrowed it, and you can't borrow Super Metroid, especially when someone wants it back in a couple of days. But I absolutely loved what I played of it. At number 18, we have Killer Instinct, the intense fighting game with brutal combo-based combat. That wasn't easy for me to say. Now, this was quite dark tonally for the Super Nintendo, a bit like Mortal Kombat, and it was the first fighting game I ever played with a combo system. Well, a combo system so intricate, and I loved it. I thought the graphics were incredible. When you got the game, you got a CD with it called Killer Cuts or something like that. Every track was a banger. Probably cheesy as hell now because I haven't listened to it for years, but back then I loved the music in this game. I never played the sequels, but yeah, I loved this game back on the Super Nintendo. And something very different at number 17, because we've got the Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse. It's a whimsical platforming adventure starring, Mickey Mouse. Now, the name for this absolutely frustrates me because for years and years I just called it Mickey's Magical Quest. I don't know if anybody else did the same thing. Anyway, beautiful graphics, just look at it, and great music. And I love the suits. If you know me, and I say this a lot, I probably say this in every bloody video I've ever done, I love any game where you can change suits or characters in a game. It's just one of my things, and this, you could do it all the way through. You get a new suit every level or so, and at the end you basically can swap through them as much as you want, and they've all got different abilities. I really miss these old Disney games. I really want them to bring something like this back. There's a great charm to them. At number 16, we've got something completely different again. Alien 3. Fight for survival against relentless extraterrestrial threats in a heart-pounding sci-fi action experience based on the movie. Now, I was a massive fan of that franchise back in the day, and this game didn't disappoint. It was brilliant. Yeah, okay, it didn't really tie into the film that well because in Alien 3, there's one alien, but in the game, you couldn't just put one alien in it. It wouldn't be that fun. So it was Ripley running around, fighting multiple aliens, saving hostages and all that stuff. It was great. I love the guns, the fact you can change the flamethrower to all the automatic. Oh, just the push of a button. That was a perfect way of doing it, rather than just having to find the guns and just having one gun at a time. You had all the guns, you just have to bother about ammo. And it felt really claustrophobic, especially when you go through all the vents. And this is years before, the brilliant Alien Isolation that came out years later. It's a great game. At number 15, we have Another World, where you navigate a mysterious alien planet in a captivating platforming adventure. Now, the name was changed to Out of This World in America, but I think it was originally called Another World here. Now, this game, oh my word, what can I say? It was extremely challenging. You will die a lot in this game, believe me. If you've never played this game before and you're thinking, oh, that looks fun, because it looks incredible. The graphics for the time were amazing, and it was on pretty much every system. The SNES was the first time I ever played this game. But my word, I racked up a lot of deaths back then, and even recently I played it on my Twitch stream and racked up a lot of deaths then. But here's the thing, even though it's extremely challenging, it's equally extremely satisfying when you get past one of those parts that you've been stuck on for ages. It was a very immersive cinematic story. I had not, to that point, played anything like it. I know people might be screaming out, Steve, Prince of Persia. I'd never played that at that point. So this was my first kind of take on that kind of gameplay. fantastic game. But I was upped by one very similar game, because at number 14 we have Flashback, another platforming game, this time where you guide Conrad using wit and skills to uncover his lost memories. Now this is very similar to Another World in the fact that it's very cinematic and the storyline is very compelling, but this has more of a kind of futuristic kind of take on the story, and very kind of Philip K. Dick, very Blade Runner-ish, and that's the thing that got me when I was growing up, because I just love anything kind of futuristic. But it was just as challenging and as tense as Another World was. You will rack up a lot of deaths, and I would say it's way more complicated, where Another World was just, all you have to do is shoot and jump. There's lots of things going on in Flashback where you have to kind of mess around with your gun and do all these different types of rolls. I mean, the manual itself had so many different maneuvers you could do. It was insane and a little bit overwhelming, but the payoff was incredible. And I've not seen anything as good as that at the time. It was just one of those games that looked incredible. But at number 13, we have, again, something very different. We have KBs Ghost Trap, which was also called KBs Avalanche elsewhere. A lot of these games have different names, I don't know why. But this was a charming, ghostly puzzle adventure where you battle enemies by matching spirits. And this is basically Puyo Puyo, if you know that, or most notably Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine on the Mega Drive. All games I absolutely love, but they're pretty much all the same. Now, I don't even play that many puzzle games, but for some reason, this got its hooks in me. I just loved it. I got lost in the zone in it, and I'm not even that good at this game, but for some reason it just really got me. I love it. I love all the different iterations that have come out these days. The Tetris versus Puyo Puyo, whatever it's called, that is great as well. But I got really obsessed with this game, and that's why I had to have it so high, because as soon as I got a copy of this game, I just could not put it down. I loved it so much. Maybe it was just because it was so colourful, I don't know, but this and Tetris are pretty much the only puzzle games I ever really got addicted to, so it had to be in my list. Moving up to number 12, we have Mortal Kombat. That, again, all these games are so different, aren't they? With this, you've got brutal battles and spine-shattering fatalities in the iconic tournament fighting game. Now, this was such a leap from the first Mortal Kombat, and at the time, when I first saw the first Mortal Kombat, I was obsessed with that, because being a kid, seeing something kind of, you know, brutal, blood on the screen, you were like, whoa, heart eyes all over the place, because it was something you were not supposed to be playing. Mortal Kombat 2 refined that. I was a little bit older, maybe a year or so, and it just looked incredible, and the lore had deepened in the game, and there's so many, oh man, the roster of characters in number 2 was incredible. And this was the first game I feel like, and I don't just say this for a lot of games, I felt like I mastered it in the sense of I knew every move, I knew every fatality, every special move every character can do, and when I went round with friends to play this game, I was good at it. And I'm not good at games generally, but for some reason I got good at Mortal Kombat 2. I'm not that good now. Even replaying a little bit for this video, I was trash. But yeah, absolutely brilliant game, and brutal as hell still to this day. But it doesn't beat this fighting game, because at number 11 we have Street Fighter 2 Turbo, where you can master lightning fast combat in the pretty much ultimate 2D fighting game. I think it's pretty much the best fighting game of all time. And why not the original, you know, Street Fighter 2? Not the original Street Fighter, let's God no, let's not talk about that one. Why not the original Street Fighter game? That was good, and I liked it. But when I first saw Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and I remember the exact moment I saw it, I went to a friend's house, and the first thing I saw was that you can go to the bosses, and I was like, what? You can play as Bison? That was incredible. And also, the next thing, the speed of it was insane. It was gone from this, like, when you played the original, you didn't realise it was so slow. You only realise it now when you go back to it. But when you play Turbo, it felt right. It felt like, okay, this makes way more sense. And you can put the cheat in, and you can get, like, you know, the full speed and all that. People are still playing that game to this very day. It's still very much a competitive game, and it deserves to be so high in my list of my favourite fighting game of all time. But at number 10, we have Super Bomberman, where you can expect explosive multiplayer or solo missions. All you have to do is bomb, outsmart, and blast to win. Or an intro. Now, this was almost a puzzle game, thinking about it now, in a weird way, like a multiplayer puzzle game, and you really felt clever when you won, when you outsmarted your friends, especially when you locked them in a little crevice and put a bomb there and walked away and just watched them die and look at their face. What? Because this was the ultimate multiplayer game for me. Like, if you had a multi-tap and a few friends to come round and play Super Bomberman, you were going to have a night of your life. I don't think anything matches it. That initial stage as well, the default grey brick stage, Nothing beats that, and you can tell because they always put that iteration of it, or that version of it, in every different version of the game they put out now. It's just an absolute classic. The solo game as well, not too bad. I mean, that probably got better than the sequels, but it was alright. It was just basically loads of levels with a kind of interesting boss now and again. But yeah, the game is the best when you're playing it on multiplayer. At number 9, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time. In this beat 'em up, travel through time with the radically awesome turtles, bash some bad guys, and save the world. Easy as that. Now, talking of amazing multiplayer games, now, sadly, you can't have 4 players playing on this. This game was incredible, especially if you were a Turtles fan, because you could get to pick your own, your favourite turtle. For me, it's Raphael, obviously, and play the kind of arcade experience. I saw this game in the arcades when I was a kid, and I could never play it. I'd never had the money to play in the arcades. I was always the kid standing behind watching the bigger kids play the games, and I got obsessed with just watching people play this. It was that, the original arcade game, and the Simpsons game, Moonwalker, all those kind of games I was just kind of obsessed with, the big beat-em-ups. Seeing this game on your Super Nintendo just wowed me, and I never owned it. I didn't own that many SNES games, because I always say this, I got a game for my birthday and Christmas, and they were 6 months apart. So a lot of these games I play around at my friends, and this was one of those. And it was just perfect to sit off and play through while casually talking about something else. Now, my favourite thing about this game, which is such a small detail, but it was so cool at the time, was the fact that you could throw enemies at the screen, if you could work that out, because it just looks so cool. I love that idea, and one of the bosses, I seem to remember, relied on the fact because you had to hit the screen with the enemies. So damn cool. At number 8, we have the first RPG on the list, which is Secret of Evermore. In this game, you'll embark on a magical journey where a boy and his loyal dog unravel the mysteries of a fantastical world. This was very imaginative, it was incredibly epic, and it was one of those games where you look up and it was originally like light outside and now it's dark. You just lost a whole day to it. Gorgeous to look at and beautiful music, and you know, there was a lot of grinding in this game, I seem to remember, especially because you got a lot of these weapons, and I remember grinding the hell out of these weapons just to get them to 100% or whatever it was. But I enjoyed the grinding process. I don't know about you, but back in the day, I did love a bit of a grind. That's not an innuendo, it sounds like one. I definitely think this RPG is underrated because I don't really hear that many people talking about it, but for me, it was a magical experience. Please check it out if you haven't already. But an RPG that beats that by 1 is number 7, because we have Illusion of Time, or Gaia, depending on where you come from. In this RPG, you go on a captivating journey through time and unravel the mysteries of a mesmerizing world. Just like in Secret of Evermore, there's a lot of grinding in this game too. You have to defeat every enemy in an area to get an upgrade point. So you would just spend a lot of time in this game looking for that last enemy somewhere on the screen so you can get that upgrade point and move on. God, it's a long game actually. But it was very challenging as well, especially with the bosses. I remember it was the first boss actually really tough, and then later on you have to fight that boss again. You have to fight a lot of bosses after each other actually. But story-wise, very dreamy and somewhat like adult-toned in some places. I remember thinking just on the replay recently, my God, this was like deceptively kind of charming and cute back then when we played it. But some of the themes were a bit dark, you know, I won't go into them, but I was kind of, you know, surprised by it. And do we need one more reason why this game is so good? Well, I'll give you one. Because you can change characters. Oh my God, Stephen, yeah, you've said that again. Yeah, you can change characters that you kind of unlock later on. These kind of different spirits you unlock, and they've all got different powers. Of course, I'm gonna like that. But let's move on to number 6, because we've got Donkey Kong Country, a thrilling platforming adventure with Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong. Wowzers. I mean, just look at this game now. It still looks incredible. I mean, these graphics blew us all away back then. It's hard to kind of like surmise what we felt when we saw these graphics, because it was definitely groundbreaking. And just like Starwing, this wasn't just a gimmick for the game. It had an incredible charm to it and really good variation in level design. And my word, the music. God, the music in this game is insanely good. Especially the water levels. If you're going to listen to one piece of music from this game, go and listen to the water level. Oh, it's dreamy. But one controversial thing I will say about the game is, it does get challenging. I know a lot of people might say, oh, it's easy. Those minecart levels later on, they're really hard. Okay, moving on to number 5, we have Super Mario All-Stars. And wowzers, pretty much the ultimate Mario collection featuring timeless adventures and classic platforming fun. Now, the value proposition for this collection is insane. You've got Super Mario Bros., Super Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario Bros. 3, and the Lost Levels, which was basically the original Mario Bros. 2. And it wasn't just the NES games thrown on a cart. They could have done that. These were remakes. They updated the graphics, they updated the music, they updated the physics, and they added a save feature. Now, I know a later version of this came with Super Mario World, but I'll be honest, I don't remember that when I was a kid. I remember this version, and it was just insane to me that you could have so much value on one cart. And notably that Lost Levels / Super Mario Bros. 2 original, that was the first time that was released outside of Japan. So yeah, incredible value on this. But moving on to number 4, we have Super Mario Kart. Race, drift, and unleash chaos in a thrilling and multiplayer karting extravaganza starring iconic characters. Now, I've never really been a racing fan. I could probably count on my hands how many racing games I've ever been into, especially at that time. So Super Mario Kart came along and made it completely accessible. I didn't feel like I needed to know about cars. So this made it really fun because it had power-ups. You can choose one of the iconic characters from the Mario roster, and the tracks were all very varied and fun to play. And it was very competitive still, but it wasn't like a kind of like a hardcore sim kind of racing game or anything like that. It was just, as I said, fun. The music was great, the graphics were just really charming. It was such a great experience. And it was still challenging, especially if you play in the single player mode. My god, Luigi with that star, it just gets so frustrating at times. But it kept you coming back, it was addictive, so there was a lot of replayability to this game, and it still is. It's pretty much timeless. Okay, we're getting there now. Number 3, we have The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. In this 16-bit sequel to the legendary series, you face a heroic quest, battling evil and unlocking many secrets. And this was my first entry into the Legend of Zelda series. I'll never forget how much impact this game had on me as a kid, because it was the first time I ever stayed up past midnight. I was really spooked out, and all I was doing was collecting heart containers. Absolutely magical, great graphics, beautiful music. It's just all there, loads of replayability because there's loads more to find, and you really felt powerful as you collected more items that led you to be able to access places you couldn't get to before. Definitely part of that Metroidvania kind of genre thing we've got going on these days. At number 2, we have Super Mario World. Join 16-bit Mario on a wild journey through a magical land, battling foes and saving Princess Toadstool once again in this iconic platformer. Now, what can I say about Super Mario World? It's perfect. In terms of Mario games, or pretty much any other platform game, nothing beats this. The level design is incredible with so much variation. You never get bored playing this game because there's always something interesting around the corner. The music is great. There's so many secrets in this game, so there's so much replayability. You can complete this game quite quickly, but there's so much other stuff to unearth that this game is just a joy to play. For me, it did for the SNES what Super Mario Bros. 3 did for the NES, and it had so much impact in my life, and it still does. I've recently decided to replay it every year on my Twitch stream. I've done it for the last 2 years so far, and I'm going to do it again next year. But stay, I hear you cry. If that's not your number 1, what could it be? Well, that, my friends, goes to Shadowrun. In this cyberpunk-influenced RPG, you navigate a world of mystery and danger where magic and technology collide. Now, I absolutely adore this game, and I played it at a very important time in my life where I welcomed the escape, and it was an incredible experience to be sucked into. Now, I mentioned this before with an earlier game, but this also had a kind of Blade Runner feel to it, and me being a massive Blade Runner fan at the time, and still now, was just looking for anything that had that kind of dystopian future vibe to it, and this nailed it. To an extent, you actually felt like Harrison Ford's character in Blade Runner, investigating what's going on, and it was just so immersive, and the world you could explore just felt so huge, and the story was so rich and compelling, and the soundtrack was incredible. It just nailed everything for me back then, and just replaying it now for this video gave me chills because it's been a good while. It's time for a replay, I think. And that is my list, a bit of an epic one this time round. But anyway, do leave a comment down below with your favourites for the Super Nintendo, and until next time, watch one of these videos over here, another list video, why not?